Hello and welcome. My name is Leah Kopke. I am a 3D motion design freelancer, and this is my podcast, Ambient 3D Animations, where we learn 3D modeling tools and practice them with projects. So today we are continuing our project of creating hand sculptures. We have used many of the mesh modeling tools and the sculpting brushes covered previously on this channel in order to 3D model a hand inside of Cinema 4D. And then in order to take that hand and make it easier to rig, we used a tool called Bake Sculpt to create normal and displacement maps and make a lower poly version of the hand. So we went ahead and did that. And then once we finished up that part of the process, we added joints and controls to the hand. And now the next step will be to do weighting, and that will basically attach the hand, the mesh, to the joints we created so that we can bend this hand in different positions for our sculpture. You can also use this method for animation purposes, but our focus for today is the sculpture project, so that's what we're doing this for. Let's go ahead and jump inside of Cinema 4D and get started. So here we are inside of Cinema 4D. This is the hand we have so far. We have some controls in here. It's looking good. If you want your controls to show up a little bit more, you can change their color. In this case, their color doesn't really matter too much since we don't have a left and a right hand and we need to determine the left or the right side of this. But if you just want them to be easier to change, easier to see, you can look at this display color here and you can choose custom and you can just choose another color in here. I actually need to make sure that I am selecting all the children of this control. Now that we've done that, we can choose custom just to make this easier to see. We'll just make it, I'm going to make it hot pink. You can make it any color you'd like it to be, just so we can see what we're doing here. We have these joints in the hand. We need to get those attached to the mesh. I am going to group our hand and all of our joints and everything and our mesh all within here just so that it's nice and organized and everything moves together. So that's looking better. And let's go ahead and open up our character tab. So we used this last time. I'm going to click these dots at the top in order to detach this, and I'm just going to pull it over here. So today we're going to be using the weighting tool. You can see that over here on the left side in order to connect these joints to the mesh. And if you'd like to see the weighting manager, which is also very important, I'm going to go ahead and click this. It'll open up in here. And there are a few things I want to go over. First of all, if you would like to see your joints in here, there's a few things we need to do. First of all, I need to right click on this and I need to go over to rigging. We need to add a weighting tag here. And then we need to select all these joints and add them within this box. So I'm actually going to lock this here. You'll see that when I click joints, we don't see anything in there yet. We need to actually go through and select all of these. Just drop them in here. So I believe this is everything. And as soon as we've done that, you can see everything appear in here. So this is good. And you can see that different colors were applied to all of them, which is also good. This will help us visualize the different joints as we go ahead and use the weighting tool. Another important thing to do, I'm going to unlock this, is for the controls over here, it's good to select everything. So I'm going to say select children. And in our coordinates, this freeze transformation is very, very important. If you ever want to go back to this original base pose of what you're rigging, you're going to want to save all the locations of all the axes of all the joints or all the objects here. We're actually looking at the controls. So we're going to need to select freeze all, and then that'll record where all of these are, which is good. And then that way, if we ever move one of these joints or one of these controls out of place, and all of a sudden we decide we need to put this back where it was, this doesn't look right, we can do that. So this tool used to be called PSR. They renamed it Reset Transform. If you click this, it resets it back to wherever you froze that position. So it set it back to the original pose. So now we don't have to try to tweak our way back to where we were. We can just do it real quick and easy. I'm going to go ahead and save since we have gone ahead and froze this, and I think that's a good saving point to be at. So this is a good start. So this weighting added all of these in here. Now we need to tell what part of the mesh goes with each one of these joints. And another very important thing that we need to do is eventually we're going to need to add a skin object. Now what that does, I'll just drop this in here and put it under here. This tells Cinema 4D that this mesh is going to be deformed by this weighting tag here. So it makes it so that it can be animated basically. So you need both of these, you need this, and you need the weighting tag. Now that we've done that, I'll bring this back. And I'm just going to dock this over to the side here. So a lot of the time, how I like to weight is let's just start at the beginning and start with these. Something very important to keep in mind while you're weighting is to keep auto normalize on. And we'll get into detail a little bit more of what that means, but it'll help prevent errors. It's a very helpful tool. There's no reason to ever turn off auto normalize. I most of the time like to work in absolute. Sometimes I'll also work in smoothing, but you can do most things in absolute. And I'm going to grab a rectangle selection and look at this from the top view for right now because I find that easier. I use the middle mouse button to come into this view. I'm going to select the joints that I would like to weight. And you could go ahead and weight these joints by just hitting apply selected. So this will add the absolute value of the elbow joint that we have selected if we select apply selected. And then if we hover over this, you can see that it shows the percentage of how this is weighted, and it's weighted 100% to the elbow joint, which is good. If this goes over or under 100%, that's considered not normalized. When your percentages add up to 100% for a point, that means that it's normalized and you won't run into errors while you're animating or moving things, or at least not into an error because of that. So that is good to keep in mind. Another way you can do this is you can actually use the weighting tool. You can also use the weighting tool in order to paint the weighting on here. So you can literally paint these on. Now, I don't want these to be a part of that joint, so I'm going to undo that. But that's another option, is you can actually go in here and paint these. I'm going to hit undo again. Our next joint is the wrist. And our wrist, I want to select, let's select these groupings. For these ones here, I want them to be 100% the wrist, so I'll apply selected here with the wrist chosen. So this part of the hand might look complicated, but something that helps me think this through is how everything will move together. And the first thing to realize is that this section of the hand will be moving with the metacarpals, this entire section. And the metacarpals, the way we set up these joints, they're going to follow the wrist joint movement. So we can pretty safely have these just move with the metacarpals. And this section up here can move with the wrist. So I'm going to make sure that I have the wrist applied to these. And then these ones here, I'm selecting. Another way you can select these is by using the brush selection. I would not keep on visible only because I want to select through here. And then if I use the right bracket, I can increase this a little bit and select some more points. And I'm going to go into perspective view just to see a little bit better what I'm selecting. And I might be going back and forth between these views a little bit, and that's totally okay. So for right now, I'm just going to select these points here. And I'm going to make sure we add the pinky metacarpal to these. So I'll say apply selected. You can see the color appear on the mesh, which makes it easier to see. Now this other area is in between the two metacarpals. So we have this metacarpal here, and that's our ring finger. So we have the ring metacarpal and the pinky metacarpal that we need to select. So I'm going to make sure that I grab these along this loop. With that done, I'm going to apply 50% of the pinky metacarpal and 50% of the ring metacarpal bones. So I'll say apply selected, and you can see the color has changed there. Now these, I want to apply 100% of just the ring metacarpal. So I'll go ahead and select apply. This is our next loop. So something that I'm noticing in here, I'm going to turn off the skin object, and I'm going to just take a little bit of a look here for a moment, because I'm noticing something that I didn't see initially that I want to adjust. So you can see this joint isn't perfectly in the center of this loop like what I had intended to do. So what I want to do right now actually is, let's find this here. In order to change the pose here and fix this, I'm going to first of all need to disable this so that I can now move this with the E hotkey and holding down 7 so that I move this without moving the other joints. And I'm just going to move this to be centered right here. Now you can see how that lines up a lot more with those loops in the hand, and how that will give us a cleaner movement when it comes to actually animating this. So now that we've done that, we can enable this again. And you can see that it snapped back. And the reason for that, I'm going to hit undo so that this goes back. The reason for that is that we still have our control that's frozen in place. So we need to look at our control for the metacarpal here. And we actually need to snap this using our snap tool. We've covered this before, and we're snapping to the axis. We're going to snap this independently from everything else. So we're going to hold 7 and snap this to the other joint. We're going to freeze this again. Now, in theory, when we go back in here and we enable this, it should all be working again. So if you run into an issue where you find out I need to move a joint later in the process, you can do it, and that's how you go about fixing that. So now that we've done that, let's get back into waiting. So I'll click on here again. We can re-enable that. I need to make sure that these become weighted. And right now they aren't weighted at all. So we have these selected in between the two metacarpals. So this needs to be 50% of the ring finger metacarpal bone and 50% of the middle finger metacarpal bone. So we need to have the ring finger and the middle finger with 100% hit apply selected. So you should be starting to see the pattern here. And now we need to select these ones in the middle, and these ones in the middle can be weighted 100% to the middle metacarpal. So I'll only select that and hit apply selected. I'll go ahead and select these, and these need to have the middle metacarpal and the pointer finger metacarpal both apply to here. So I'll go ahead and hit apply selected. These middle joints here, or these middle points here, need to be applied to just the pointer finger metacarpal. And if we want to check our work, we can again hover over these points. So this is 50% pointer metacarpal, 50% middle metacarpal. So that looks good. It's good to double check our work. And it's okay if we make adjustments later. That's a part of the process. For this next part, I'm going to grab these points here. The thumb's a little bit tricky. So this will be the thumb metacarpal and the pointer metacarpal combined together. I'll hit apply selected. And then these, I'll just apply the thumb to them. So I want to make sure that I'm selecting all of these here. And there we go. So now we're on to this next section where the next bone in line is the proximal bone here, right after the metacarpal. And that goes for all the fingers. That's the next bone name. So I'm just going to go ahead and select these points here because we can see them and they're close to where we were working. So this is going to be 50% thumb metacarpal, 50% thumb proximal. So now that I have both of those selected, I'm going to apply it, and you can see it applied 50% of both because we have auto normalize on, so that looks good. These points here and these points here, I'm holding shift to select all of them. They're just going to be the thumb proximal. You can see what I'm referring to here. And then these next bones are called the proximal phalanx, but I just shortened it to proximal for purposes of this. I have these selected. These are going to be the thumb proximal bone. I'll go ahead and apply selected. This next group will be a combination of the thumb proximal and the thumb distal bone. So I'll go ahead and select, make sure that I have both of those selected, both of these selected, and hit apply selected. You can see it applied 50% of both. I'll select this next group of points here. And I'll just apply the thumb distal here at the end. I'm going to go ahead and hit save. And just to give you an idea of how this is working right now, I'm going to select this and I'm going to move it. So you can see that the thumb is moving. And this is also a great way to test if you really did get all the points in here. You can see that we missed one there that isn't moving. So it's good to test these out. You can see that this one has 0 weighting. So that's our problem. We'll go ahead and select that one and we'll make sure we got it. So this is what the weighting does, is it tells what points to follow what joint. And that's why sometimes you want to have them be 50% one joint and the other if they're following a little bit of two or they're in between two joints. So here we can try moving this again. You can see our thumb is bending. That's great to see. We can try moving this. This looks pretty good. We may smooth this out a little bit more later too, and that's okay. But this is a good place to start. Go back into point mode. Make sure that I have this selected. I'm going to save one more time. So these points here are a little bit tricky because it feels like they're between the thumb, proximal, and they're also in between this joint up here, which is the pointer finger. These points here are a little bit confusing to know what to do with at times because they're between the proximal thumb and there's also this joint up here. So what I think would be the best move to make would to actually make these between these 3 joints. So instead of making it between 2, I'm going to make it between 3. We have the thumb proximal right here. We have the pointer metacarpal, and we also have the pointer proximal. So I'm going to make this have a little bit of all of these, and I might need to smooth this out or make further adjustments to it later, and that's okay. This is just a good starting point. Going to go ahead and select these here, these points. These will be the next ones we work on. So I want to make sure that I have all of these. These ones here will be 50% between the metacarpal and the proximal for the pointer finger. So I'll go ahead and apply both of these. I actually also want to apply it to these ones up here. These points here as well as these. I want to be applied to just the proximal. These ones are in between 2 joints. They're between the pointer proximal and the pointer middle joints. So apply both of those. These ones here that I have selected now, these are going to be pointer middle. I'll apply them. You can see the colors in here that I'm adding as I add them. It signifies which ones are being added with those colors. This one here is going to be partially the pointer middle and the pointer distal. So I'll select both of those and apply selected. All of these ones here at the end, I'm going to try to make sure that I select all of them. All of these will be the pointer distal. Failing, so I'll go ahead and apply selected. Now, in theory, if we go in here and test this out, this should now be moving together, and you can see that it is. I think this will even look better once it's smoothed out with the subdivision surface turned on. We'll test this next joint here that is bending nicely. Let's test this one here. So this one's going to be needed. This is going to need some smoothing, and that's okay. It's good enough for now. We'll revisit it. This will need some work, but that's okay. No worries. We're just getting it close enough for right now. The next section we need to work on are these points. I'm trying to go in an order that's very systematic so that I'm less likely to miss points, because even though we made this topology a lot more minimal, there's still quite a few points here to keep track of, and this will make it easier. So these are actually in between 4 joints when you think about it, which is quite a lot. This is our pointer metacarpal. We're going to need our middle metacarpal. So that's these 2. And then we're going to need our middle proximal, this one. And we're going to need our pointer proximal, this one. And now we are going to apply selected onto the next group, which are these here. Trying to make sure I have all of these selected. These ones are between the middle metacarpal and the middle proximal. So I'll select both of those and hit apply selected. These ones up here are going to be the middle proximal, since that's that joint right there. So you could see that there's a little bit of a pattern that goes with this. And I think that makes it a little bit less intimidating to actually go through the steps. These points here right now have 0 weighting, so I want to make sure we take care of them. These are halfway between the pointer and the middle finger, and they're between the proximal joints. So we have the middle and pointer proximal. I'll apply these. And then next, we're going to have these to take care of. These are the middle proximal. So we'll go ahead and apply that here. These are halfway between 2 joints. So we need to select those 2 joints. And those are the middle proximal and the middle phalanx. So let's go ahead and apply selected here and go on to our next grouping. These are going to be this one, this bone. So I'll apply 100% of that bone to these. And this one is halfway between the middle phalanx and the distal phalanx. So I'll select both of those. And then these all go with the middle finger distal bone. I need to make sure to select that one at the top. Apply selected. Going to once again save our work. And let's take a look at it here and make sure everything is bending appropriately. I like to check things as I go along to make sure that nothing's terribly wrong. And there's a little bit of relief also when you see things work appropriately. So I like to go back and try out these and see how they're going. So I feel a huge amount of relief that that all looks good. All right. We're making some progress. We have more done now than what is unfinished, so that is great to see. Going back into point mode over here, and I'm going to take a look at what we have. And by the way, I just want to remind you that I have X-ray on, so that might change how it looks in here. If you turn off the X-ray, it actually looks like this, and sometimes that's helpful to see it, not so see-through. Like you can see here that I missed some of these points, so I'll need to go back and make sure that I apply what needs to be applied to those. But the colors help you visualize what needs to be done. I'm going to go back in here. And let's go ahead and work on this section. So we have these in between. And that's between the middle finger and the ring finger. And they are between 4 joints again. Middle metacarpal, middle proximal, and it's between the ring metacarpal, ring proximal. I'll go ahead and hit apply. Now let's do our next group. So I'm selecting these ones here that are kind of in between. And these are between the ring metacarpal and the ring proximal. So I'll apply selected to those. These ones up here going to add the ring proximal to them. These are between the 2 proximals, so this is between the ring proximal and the middle finger proximal bone, so I'll add those there. These are the ring proximal. This is 50% ring proximal and middle. These are for the middle. These are between the middle and the distal. These are the distal. So let's check our work one more time. I'll turn off the X-ray for now. This looks like it's bending okay. Let's take a look at this one here. It looks like it is bending okay as well. This is not bending okay. We missed some points. So let's take a look at this. I missed this point up here. For the ring finger. So I'll make sure I added that right there. Once again, I'll save. We have these points here that are between the ring finger and the pinky finger, and they're both the proximal joints or bones. So I'll apply selected for those. And these I'll make the pinky proximal. Half of both of these here. And then these ones, this one here, would be just the middle. And this one's between the middle and the distal bones. I'll apply those. And I'll make these all the distal. Make sure I have all those selected. Now I need to take a look at this down here, because we haven't weighted them. I'm holding Shift to select more points. These are between the pinky metacarpal and the pinky proximal. So I'm going to apply both to those. These joints here will have 4 applied. Metacarpals and proximals for the pinky and the ring finger. And now we'll go ahead and take another look at this. So it's helpful here that we can see visually with these colors that we missed a point since this one isn't colored. So that's really great that we can actually visualize that and see what we're missing here. So we can go ahead and fix that. I'm hitting the middle mouse button to change views. I'm going to take a look at this. That looks good. That looks good. That looks much better. So I think that I need to adjust the weighting here because this isn't looking exactly how I'd like it to. But this is why we try things out. We try them out and we see how they look and we learn from it. So I selected set bind pose and that fixed it. I think that looks better. So I think that problem arose from me moving that joint earlier, and then these ones just looked kind of smushed in a weird way. So that looks better now. Sometimes it takes a few minutes to fix things. I like to show my thought process while I'm fixing things, so that in case if you run into the same problem as me, you can fix it. Or at least have some idea of how I approach it. So this is what I wanted to fix. I don't know if I really like how this is deforming completely. So I'm going to undo that. And we're going to take a look at how to fix that. So we were talking about one approach we could have is smoothing out the joints. Another option is, you see how here I made these 50% metacarpal, 50% ring proximal. I feel like this one up here should actually be similar instead of 100% of the proximal. So I think I'm going to adjust that. So it's a little bit of a learning process as you go through this and you see what's working and what's not. So up here, we're looking at the ring finger. These will be a combination of these two now. I'm going to try bending this and we're going to see if this looks any better. Hopefully it does. I'm going to make it so that I can't select this as easily. So I think that's holding its form in a much more realistic way. And I might smooth it out a little bit more along the edge there. But you can see that it looks, I think, better. I'm going to put that back. Alrighty. Pinky. Going to correct that for all of these. This one's the middle finger, so we'll need the middle metacarpal and the middle proximal. This one is going to be for the pointer finger. So we need the pointer metacarpal, pointer proximal. Okay. I'm going to select all the joints just to see if there's anything in here that's gray that we need to fix. And you can see that we did actually miss a few points in here that need to be weighted. So it's really good that we checked this and took a look at what we're doing. The first one that I see over here is this one. So I'm going to make sure that I have visible only selected because I really only want to select that point there. And this point, let's see what joints it's in between. So we're looking at between, oh, we're also missing this one here. We're looking at between these two. So let's grab the pinky, metacarpal, pinky, proximal, and then this one is the ring finger. So ring, metacarpal, ring, proximal, and then we'll apply selected, and there we go. Now let's take a look at the other ones that appeared gray that I had missed, and they're these ones down here. I think I just forgot to do these. So I'm going to select these. And I want to make sure that I'm not just selecting visible only. I want these to bend with the elbow. So I think that's a much better wrist movement. I mean, it'll need to be smoothed out, but that's, once again, something I'm okay with. Now let's see where we're having issues here. We missed these. Oh my goodness. This little point in here. So this is between the ring finger and the middle finger, proximal. There we go, apply selected. Let's take a look at this point here that we missed. This is between the middle and the pointer. Apply selected. So this looks much better. I'm going to save this. Most people do not rig these metacarpals individually here. I think I might make further adjustments to the positioning of the splines. But before I do that, I want to show you what it's like to actually move one of these controls here. So you can see that you can get more complex hand movement by being able to move those. So that's why I added those into this rig and went about that. Now, if I don't want to move the axis and I just want to move the points, I can do that by just selecting the points of these. And then moving these up. I missed a point over here. Looks like they're all selected. I just want these to be high enough over the mesh so that it's easy to select them and move them. So this looks better. I want these controls to look nice and neat and organized. I'm really excited that we've gone this far in the project. I think that this one is the most complicated project that we've done together on this podcast so far. But we've also learned a lot of great tools. And rigging is not easy, so if you're having trouble with this, don't beat yourself up about it. It's taken me a lot of practice to reach the point that I'm at now. And I've been 3D modeling for probably about 10 years. So be kind to yourself, because this is hard. And there's definitely been times where I think that I was too hard on myself. And I need to remind myself that it's a learning experience and it is okay. But I think that this turned out really well. I feel very proud of this. I hope you feel really proud of this too. Oops, I had that go too far. Yeah, but things seem to be bending pretty well. And I was talking about how you can smooth these out a little bit. You could even decide that you want to smooth out all of the points to a certain degree. Maybe that's actually a good method to do this. I'm just going to try that and see what it looks like. To select a group of these points. Maybe I just want to smooth out these ones. So we get a little bit of a smoother deformation here. But I don't want to affect the upper part of the fingers. So I'm trying to only select that section, those points. And sometimes it's easier to check what we're doing if we actually bend this. So I'm going to go ahead and see what this looks like now when we bend some of these. So I think that looks better than what it did before. Let's try this one. That looks nicer to me. Can always go back into point mode. And try applying it again, seeing what it looks like. That looks like a much, much cleaner change. I think that I want this point here. Whoops. I just lost it. Where did it go? I want this point here. To be adjusted just a little bit. I think that I want that to move with the metacarpal a little bit more. Make sure you still have normalize on when you do this. And I'm going to try adding. I don't think they have the right joint selected. I'm going to hit undo. So this is the pointer finger. I'm just going to add a little bit more to it to see if that helps it bend. Maybe what we actually need is the metacarpal. That's the middle finger. That looks better. It'll also look better when I add on the subdivision level, so that might be good enough. Take a look at this one. If you want to just put this PSR or reset transform somewhere, you can dock it. I think that's a little bit easier to work with. I think that this is actually a pretty good point to be at here. I might refine this a little bit more later on, but I think that this is pretty good and we can work with this. I think we've gotten the hand to a decent point, so I wanted to go ahead and show what this looks like once we actually start bending and deforming it. I went ahead and just double checked that everything was frozen and added in some subdivisions while this renders so that the detail comes through. The subdivision surface is in the standard mode. So here I'm just double checking that this texture still looks right before I start positioning the hand. Here I'm adding in an HDRI just so that I have some lighting in the scene to help me visualize this a little bit more and see the texture as it deforms. I'm going to position this similar to our statue since that's the end goal. We'll be using this as a larger statue that's pushing a bookshelf, and also some smaller ones that will be on the bookshelf and will be bookends. You can see the image in the upper right. I made it a little bit smaller so you can see what I'm referencing on my other screen as I'm positioning this hand. It's good to have a reference while you're actually moving or animating a character or just positioning something. It's good to have a reference image, and I had sketched this from my own hand, so I'm using that as a reference for while I'm 3D modeling. And that's actually a great option, is to take photos or sketch something you want to use as a reference for later for 3D modeling. So you can see here that the texture seemed to be looking pretty okay, but we'll be able to tell better once this renders. So this is looking okay to me so far. I think, of course, once we do this in an actual environment, we'll have better lighting and a more interesting environment around it, but this works. I think this gives you the idea, though, that of what to expect while doing this yourself. So this wraps up weighting our hand, and I hope you enjoyed this episode. I look forward to seeing you on the next one. We're going to make some sculptures from this, so I look forward to that. I'll see you next time. If you enjoyed this, please hit like and subscribe. If you'd like to be notified of more videos like this, please hit the bell. And if you have any questions, please feel welcome to leave them for me in the comments.